child everywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. Unfortunately, Gretchen isn't able to be with us today. She was really looking forward to this one. This dyslexia series was her really brainchild. This is what she really wanted to do. It's a subject that's so close to her heart, but she has a new baby and he's teething and would not allow her to be away from him this afternoon. She tried to get on and he wasn't having it. But we are so glad that you're here with us. If you've been following along in our podcast, then you know we are right in the middle of our dyslexia series and it is incredibly close to our hearts. When we started planning these, we kept coming back to one word around dyslexia that we really wanted to share with everyone, and that word is hope. Because that's what we want every teacher, every parent, every school leader, but most importantly, every student, especially those with dyslexia, to walk away with, and that's hope. In our first episode, just to catch you up quickly, in our first episode, Dr. Jan Hasbrook helped us really understand the science behind dyslexia. She defined it for us. And she emphasized that students with dyslexia absolutely can learn to read with explicit, systematic instruction. And in our last episode, Gretchen and I shared about our journey with dyslexia as educators and what students with dyslexia taught us, how they changed our lives, and how they most definitely changed our careers. But today, with our third episode, we really wanted to shift the focus off of science and shift it to the human side of dyslexia. We are so honored today to welcome someone whose life has been dedicated to ensuring that no child has to experience the struggles that she faced growing up. Our guest today is the extraordinary advocate for children with dyslexia and their families, Diane Lyon. Diane, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored, committed to the teaching and learning process. So thank you.
You're welcome. Diane has spent decades helping schools, parents, educators understand both the science of reading, along with her incredible dear husband, Dr. Reed Lyon, who you've heard from on multiple episodes, and also emphasizing the importance of early intervention, which we'll talk about a bit today. But before she became that fierce advocate, she was a little girl who struggled every single day to learn to read. And today, she is courageously sharing her story with all of us. So again, Diane, thank you for being here. I would love to begin with your childhood. Begin with us on that journey with your story, if you will. And just when you think back to yourself as a little girl, what kind of child were you?
I think it's important to know that I was the fourth born of six children. So
Okay.
I had, I feel like, and we're still all together, like I was born within a village. I was very joyful, energetic, a real team player, just a happy, very happy child.
Yes. I love that. I imagine that knowing you today, I can totally see that. When did, when you went to school, at what point did school stop feeling like a place of excitement? Because you were happy, you were joyful. When did it stop feeling like a place of excitement and start becoming a place of confusion for you?
So when I reviewed your questions earlier and I reread this one over and over again and sat with it in my heart, and I just have to be honest that school never felt like a place of excitement.
Did it
Um,
not?
Never. No, I didn't want to go to school. I wanted to stay home with my little brother and sister, and I just wanted to be a mom. Um, I didn't want to go to school. So when I did go to kindergarten, I remember my first day at kindergarten. I was young. I was a September baby. I started right at 5 and I wasn't ready. I know I wasn't ready in
Mm.
my mind or heart. And I was so stubborn that my mother sent me with my pajama top on because I wouldn't unfold my arms.
Oh my goodness. That is a stubborn little 5-year-old. Oh my
hmm
goodness.
hmm And so, So when you talk about kindergarten, I do remember being in kindergarten and realizing that I didn't come ready. I didn't, my parents were mill workers. So they were mill workers. They weren't educated. Their focus was, they had 6 kids. They didn't have the money. So it was food, clothing, and their focus was keeping the money coming in enough to keep us clothed and taken care of. So I did notice very early on that people in the class were sitting on the floor, the little children and me sitting there. They knew their colors. And so I wasn't ready. And I want to be that transparent here. So as I progressed, the teacher talked to my mother, and my mother was like, well, we didn't prepare her. So early on, it was that kind of focus that I wasn't prepared. Not so much that I might have had a learning disability or dyslexia, because they didn't use that language in those years. And that was 1960s.
Okay.
So it was like blaming the parent, but my mother was a wonderful woman. She was wonderful, and she just didn't know what she didn't know.
Right.
So today, if parents are listening, it's critically important to teach them their letter sounds early on, their children, and their colors and their sounds, and just exposure to rich literature. We didn't have books in the house.
Right. Yeah. So do you remember a time in school, maybe it was early on then, that you realized that reading seemed maybe easier for everyone else that was in your class than it was for you?
Yeah, very early on. First grade.
Okay.
I think, I remember the teacher calling on students to read, and they could. So when I was called on and I couldn't, I have the memory of staring at the word harder. Like I'd stare at the word thinking, maybe if I stare really hard, I will get it. But I didn't.
Yeah.
And so that just went on, and I developed not the ability to read, but the ability to feel shame, to feel less than. And then imagine in front of your peers, they don't want to be with you if you're that different. Right?
Right. Yeah. It's one of the things in working with so many families and seeing the students go through this. This is one of the reasons why we wanted to really talk to individuals that had dyslexia, children that had struggled, students that are still in school that struggled early, because there is a shame. There is this defeated feeling. I've not had one student that I've ever encountered that was struggling with learning to read that did not have those feelings, even voicing that they felt broken or like something was wrong with them. As a child, then, my heart breaks for you, but as a child, then, how did you make sense of what was happening? And did you ever think something was wrong with the way you were learning?
100% yes to all the questions there. It was layered effect. It was a gradual experience, day in and day out. I went to school all day long and experienced the fear that I might get called on.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense. I remember in my school, 1965, 66, first grade, second grade, I just didn't get it. Like when the teacher was teaching, I didn't get it. And what do you do at 6, 7 years old? You just sit there. You just sit there. So
and you don't understand.
You don't. And then I remember the other piece of it is I would go home, and there were 6 of us, and my little brother and sister were reading, and my older brothers and sister was reading, and I wasn't. So I got it at home too.
Yeah.
The
Gosh.
experience, right?
Right.
Right? It's only
Yeah.
the experience. You're sitting there watching people read, and I actually remember things like my older and my father reading the TV guide, thinking, I wish I could read the TV guide because then I would know what show I want to watch.
Yeah. Well, you have spent years advocating for students with dyslexia, but as we know now, before that, you were actually a child living through it yourself. So, from that experience, what is something that you wish people understood about what you're talking about, that emotional side of struggling to learn to read? Because I think we often, teachers talk about the symptoms they see with a student struggling to learn to read. They can't decode the words off the page. And they talk about the school aspect of it, but we're really wanting to bring out what's that emotional side that those students are going through with struggling to learn to read.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest impact. And
I do too.
it's a broad brush, meaning you wake up and you know what's in front of you. And I just want to pause and say, you're asking me in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up to 12th grade to go to school, not for an hour, but all day long. And print is everywhere.
Yeah.
So as soon as you wake up, you're like, and so you're entering a world of embarrassment and shame and this place of, I got to fake it because what's my choices? What are my alternatives? I mean, and the panic as you get older just gets worse. So you're living in this, you're swimming in anxiety is what you're doing. And
Right.
then when you're the other emotional part is then you've got to fake it. So you're even being not even true to yourself. So there's another layer to that, right? So you're
Right.
living a false self. And then to be able to read and write is social. I remember I couldn't write to my girlfriends when they wrote me notes or my
Oh,
boyfriends when they, right? I couldn't
right.
read their notes. So your social life begins to break down, and then they realize that they don't realize you can't read or write, but you don't want to be my friend because you didn't or you didn't acknowledge my. So you begin to fade away. In elementary school, that happening, nobody would want you on their team at
Oh,
recess, football team.
oh,
Because you know, I was the girl that didn't enter the what is it called, the clique,
yes,
the
the
you
click.
know that
Yeah.
the girls clique. And so like I'm not a victim. We love myself, but the truth is, you know, you always go for the swing set because you don't have to be a part of a team then,
Right.
because nobody wants you to be a part of their team. you,
Oh,
you have to be you have to be smart. You've got to respond. You've got to be able to write back. You've got to look good. You've got to be liked. You've got to be, you know, I mean, you know, the kind of,
yeah.
so I feel blessed that I just got comfortable with myself.
Yeah. Was there a particular moment? And then we're going to transition to the side of hope because I feel that your story is a story of hope and resilience and
Totally.
perseverance. Perseverance, yes. So
Totally.
I definitely want to focus on that for the listeners. But before we move on to that, was there a particular moment in school that still stays with you today? Is there anything that kind of stands out about your school experience?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna, I don't want to be negative, but I want it to be told and clear because I hope teachers hear this and are able to put it in their heart.
We do too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the most experience was when everybody was getting their diplomas on the football field, 12th grade graduation. And I kind of popped out of this denial delusion, fake it till you make it. And I broke because I realized, what am I going to do? I can't fake it as an adult graduate. And I listened to everybody talking about going to college, they got their job. Well, when you want to get a job, you've got to fill out an application. If you want to fill out an application, you've got to be able to read. You should be able to spell.
Yes.
And I couldn't do any of that. So the good news is I have that personality, and Reed can be a testimony to it. I am tenacious. I rise to the occasion. So I sat and I looked around and I thought, I'll show the world. I'm very dyslexic. So I couldn't go down the path. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the, I heard the word college in my home. You know, so we didn't have, I'm not from that culture, right? It's a culture of education.
Yeah, it is.
I wasn't born into that, and that's okay. I have a lovely family.
Mm-hmm.
But I dug it in and I started cleaning houses and I started making sandwiches. From 4 to 6 in the morning, I made sandwiches for a morning sandwich truck, business truck. Then I would go and be a cashier in a union from like 6:30, 7 o'clock until about 9, because they never wanted to give us too many hours, because then we'd make too much. After a certain union threshold, you make too much money. So they wanted to keep you under one umbrella of hours. But I would do that. And then I would clean houses from like noon till 5. And I did that 5 days a week. And I bought a home by the time I was 22 years old.
Wow. Wow.
So it was like, how I was brought up was not education, not college, but buy a car, be responsible, have money, eat right, and buy a house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The life lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm tenacious, you know. I couldn't read, but I could work, I could make money. The other memory that I love holding on to is in high school. High school got really hard because the curriculum's harder and the testing is more demanding. And my girlfriends, one particular, but many, really rallied and helped me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So that warms my heart.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So years later, you became a mom, and your son Kyle started showing similar signs. What was going through your mind then when this is your son going through this and you are his mom? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a little tricky because I first had my daughter, and by the time she was 3, she knew her alphabet, her sounds, she was reading. You know, my girlfriends that had children, you know, in the neighborhood with me, they kindly would say Jody was kind of freaky because she just picked up reading and loved it. And so I thought, I'm home free. Nobody has to know that I can't read, and that because I didn't advertise it. I kept it under the radar, and I just faked it my life in that domain. And then I got pregnant again, and I had Kyle, and he was a baby, and I did have books. I exposed him to early learning books that I could tell by 4 he was not interested in, not grasping the alphabet, and it was scary. And you know, I made a that because I'm an adult and the world evolves and the state evolved, and he'll enter school and they'll take care of him because people evolve. So I assume the teachers evolved. Strangely, he ended up going to my elementary school.
Okay.
And he wasn't learning to read.
Mm. Did it take
So,
you back?
oh, I had a hard time entering the building. I mean, it's traumatizing.
Yes.
So I had to enter for him, but I shook. I mean, I shook. But I
Oh
love
gosh.
stories. I love stories and I love journeys and I love being courageous because
Yep.
that's what happened. I grew and I thought, I'm going to do this for my son and I am going to help him. I'm going to help the school understand that he needs extra support. But it didn't work out. They put him in a room, a self-contained special ed room with
Oh,
children with behavioral problems and children with autism and Down syndrome. And the good news out of that is he helped the teacher and he loved those kids. He loved those kids. He's very social. He's very big. He's very kind. He's got a great heart. And so he just loved on them. But when
oh, how sweet.
yeah, but he wasn't learning to read. He became kind of like the teacher's aide.
Oh gosh, Diane.
Yeah. So, but it turned out in the moment good because my husband at the time, my first husband, he was being transferred out of state. So I said, absolutely. And I had been born and raised here. And I said, let's go. I said, let's go because I thought teaching children how to read in Pennsylvania was the problem. That if we moved, if we
Yeah.
moved out of state, other states would be able to teach my son how to read. So we moved. And I found out that wasn't true. That in Indiana, it was Richmond, Indiana, they had the same problem as Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So he was in third grade and he still wasn't reading.
Gosh.
So I knew that was the pivotal point. Third grade, I really had to stop being so kind and so naive.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Naive.
Naive.
Yeah.
It's like I stopped drinking their Kool-Aid, whoever they were, and started looking in the mirror and saying, okay, it's time to get real. How many years are you going to watch your son not learn to read and then have a life experience like mine? And I kind of had a come to Jesus meeting with myself. And I remember, I know right where I was sitting in Indiana when I decided this was going to be my life and that my meaning of life wasn't going to be becoming a model or getting a degree, or my life journey was going to be that my son will learn to read before I die. That was
Wow.
it. You know,
Yeah.
people plan, right, to travel the world or become somebody
Yes.
or get a degree or become a doctor or a nurse. I said to myself in the mirror, this is it. You are going to go public. And I was in a mental position, and I think, you know, I don't know the psychological piece to it, but I think everything flipped. Like my whole life, I was in my 30s, and the 30 some years of hiding out and experience being a non-reader turned inside out. It was like a switch, and I just went public. I didn't care who you were. I didn't care where we were, but you were going to hear, like if you were in the world of education or
Sure. Yeah.
politics, or if you were in the business world or at the state level, you were going to hear my story. I had an elevator story, and then
Yep.
you were going to hear what I was going to do to help my son and other children, because I was in the 1960s and he's in the 1980s, and it's been 20 years.
Right.
Game over.
Yep.
Game over.
Good for you and good for our world, actually. So you made a decision then that Kyle's story was not going to be like your story. So what did you do at that point? What did you do differently?
Well, first I realized through a dear woman. Her name's Peggy Schaefer. She's in those days, she's in the Time magazine article. If you want me to send it, it's Time magazine
Sure.
in the 1980s did a story on a mom with a son that lived in a campsite to get the services she needed in a particular location, and she did, and she got her son help, and she became my mentor. She could read, she had a degree, she was as angry as I was. She taught me a lot, and what she said, which I listened, she said, first focus on your son, get him into some type of system or program that you begin to see that the data is working, because he's behind. So I spent a year really looking at what he needed through assessment and instruction, and a teacher who's prepared. It isn't just like the science of reading. It's not just
It's not. Yeah.
a great reading program like Linda Mood Bell. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's a meal. It's a balanced meal of data, assessment, instruction, teacher preparation, communication, practice. I even incorporated that Kyle wasn't not going to end any of his IEP meetings without me and his support system, that he was going to be in every meeting and help run the meeting and share his experience of being a non-reader in school. And I think having that commitment, because it was his life, he had to make decisions.
Yeah.
Did he want to be invested in this? He's an attorney today. So I think
Wow.
part of him watching me advocate and telling my story, the truth, he was like, you're really going to tell them you can't read? I'm like, I am. They have to know what I'm not going to lie. So once I got him on track, which took more than a year, and if I can go into, if you want, the what we went through to figure out what he needed, it might be an interesting story if you want me to tell you.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay, so he was at Garrison Elementary in third grade. It's a public school, and they put him in read and recovery. They thought that was going to help him learn to read. I gave them a matter of 8 weeks to show me any data pre and post, and they couldn't show me any pre and post. And I had an honest come to Jesus meeting with them, and I said, I'm not putting up with this. You had 8 weeks. He was on a kindergarten reading level in third grade.
And that's 2 months. That's 2 months that's gone by with nothing.
With nothing, no improvement whatsoever. So they put him, then they assigned him a reading specialist. He got an IEP. He was one-on-one. Her name was Debbie. I think her name was Debbie Morris, Garrison Elementary. She worked with him for 2 months, no improvement, but outside the building, she told me, she said, I'm not equipped. Your son has dyslexia or something. He has a learning disability. He's not getting it. So I went back to the school IEP meeting. I said, he's not getting it. They said, I have to wait. They didn't have services. So I thought, I'll take him to the school in the neighborhood. It was a Catholic school, and maybe they can offer something. Well, Great school, great teachers, not a good experience for him. But they did say they didn't want to lose him as a student. So right next door was another public school, and they would pull him out and he'd go in a small group with a trained teacher who would teach the 3 boys. So that's what we did. We did that for 2 months. But when I entered, he was getting services in a janitor's closet.
Oh gosh.
So I was like, I know what I went through. And I knew if an adult, this is kind of where I was thinking, if an adult stepped into my life as a young 3rd grader or a 4th grader and started advocating for me, that alone would have changed the experience about myself. So I just said, Kyle, I don't think you should be learning to read in a janitor's closet. This doesn't make any sense. And he agreed. He wasn't learning. The data wasn't telling us he was learning. It wasn't moving. None of the data, all the components of the science of reading I was looking at, because in between, I had been networking with parents and learning the science of reading through them. They would help teach me what the science of reading was. They were reading the NICHD articles that were coming out, and Sally Shaywood's book and Marilyn Adams' book and Joe Tour. So they would teach me and empower me. I was the front runner. I was the public person. So they would teach me and I could go public. So I just said, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And then I hired a tutor, and I homeschooled him. And I told him, because as I was helping him navigate all these buildings and all these new teachers and new friends, and his improvement and there was no improvement, that has an impact on your personality.
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't care if you're in 3rd grade or you're 30 or 60 or 100 years old. You have to find success in your life in front of your peers. Whether it's your husband or your neighbors, you can't keep hitting these kids over the head. So I said, Kyle, you're so valuable to me. We're going to homeschool you. We're going to hire the right person. We're going to show you the data. So Carolyn Gibb, her name was Carolyn Gibb. She was my other angel. And I'll tell you, she was more tenacious than I was. And she said, we are going to teach this young man how to read. And she did. She did. Now he's in 4th grade, still not reading. In less than a year, she got him right on reading level.
Thank God.
So once that momentum happened, he changed. His personality changed. So I'm like, okay, this is good. But it wasn't good. My mind went back to my mother, who really wanted to be an advocate, but didn't know what she didn't know. My mind went back to all the other kids like me who are still out there. I remember thinking, this is more than just Kyle. This is about a whole community, a whole state, a whole nation they don't know what they don't know. So at the time, I'm growing and realizing, like, I still don't have a degree and I still can't read, but I think I'm pretty smart. So once I realized that I had a voice and that I had some sense of power, if I could do this for my son, what could I do for a community? So because I was the verbal one, the one that I didn't have anything to prove, I could go in front of a school board and up because I didn't have a degree. I didn't have a career. So I could mess up. So, it was like that commercial, let Tommy eat the cereal and see what, I don't remember it, but it was like, let Diane deliver it.
Let Diane do it.
So I said, I'll do it. So at that point we created a small coalition, and I was the president. Peggy Schaefer was the co-president, and, and then we had Kyle's pediatrician, was very, very instrumental in developing the coalition, and her sister worked for the PAL item. So we got some of the marketing from there. So we all thought about, okay, public awareness, but what do we want the public to be aware of? And how are we going to deliver this? So it made sense that I deliver it because I couldn't read,
Sure.
right? So
Right.
it just made sense. And I didn't have anything to prove, right?
Right.
I didn't have a reputation. I didn't have a look. I just wanted to help kids. So at that point, we first had like Joe Torgeson out. We had Sally Shaywitz out. We had Marilyn Adams out. And then they said, let's think about having Reed Lyon. I'm like, who's Reed Lyon? They're like, well, he's the one that kind of started all this. And I said, okay, well, let's have him. And they said, well, you don't understand, Diane. You don't just call Reed Lyon. I'm like, oh, yes, you do. If it's for the children,
yeah.
If it's for the children, you call the President of the United States. This is not about adults.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like,
thank you for saying that. Yeah. So
I called Reed Lyon. And we had him out. We took a year of fundraising because we had to pay, we paid for these rock stars to come out and do presentations and meet our local chamber and meet our governor and meet our mayor and meet our principals and superintendent. It wasn't just come out and do your thing and present. It was, no, we need you to meet these people and look at them and tell them the story about your research, about your books, and about assessment and instruction and illiteracy and the pain children all their life if we don't step in and help them. And so I made it very personal, and that I'm not saying it's better or it's the best. I'm not saying that. But it was my design to say, we are going to make this personal. It's not, we're not just going to have, Reed Lyon come out, get on stage, do his speech and fly out. No, he is going to meet these people. He's going to talk to them. We're going to change lives, not only for children, but for adults, not only for the adults, but for parents and teachers, for leaders. I made this a business issue. I made it a business model. Look at our nation. If we don't have readers, what's going to happen to our nation?
Right. Yeah.
So,
and there's where that fierce advocate was born. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And go ahead. It's just about making a commitment that you're going to be bigger than yourself, that you're going to do something to help other people and you're going to do whatever it takes. And I think the fierce advocate was born in kindergarten and stored all that experience and pain. And then when you transfer that to other people that they're living in that same world, you have to do something. And nothing's gonna, if you think that way and sit with it, nothing stops you. Nothing stops you. I mean, during that period, I was offered jobs and money, and I said, no, this is not about making money or me getting a job. If I take the job and take your money, you're going to have to tell me what to do, and I don't want to be told what to do. You might have to fire me, and I don't want to be fired.
So you have now worked with thousands of families. What do you hear over and over again from the parents? I want to know what you hear from the parents and then also what it is that you hear from the children that are going through this.
Yeah. I always hear from the parents that it's hard. It's hard on them. It's hard on their day. It's hard on their life. I hear they are in pain because they watch their child live in pain. That's hard. They get confused because they don't understand why schools aren't turning around and really, I mean, parents, we want to remove a lot of the noise and the other coursework and just teach our children to read. We don't understand why that isn't the priority.
Yeah.
So parents are confused. Yeah. I mean, we understand that there are other children in the building that can read and need math and science and social studies, but children who can't read benefit maybe 50% of sitting in the room listening to science, social studies, and math. I mean, I was telling Reed, it begins so early. I mean, the worksheet, over and read the instructions and do the work. Well, I cock my head and say, excuse me, what if you can't read the instructions? Now, I don't say that, but it's in my head. Yeah. So now I'm not saying it's happening today, because maybe the teachers have evolved and they know that not all children can read the instructions.
Yeah.
So
it's so critically important now because, I've seen in the past teachers like, yes, but the student's good at math. So, okay, so half their day, they'll be okay. If you've looked at a math test now or a math book, you read throughout all of that. I'm right there with you on why don't we just take the time to teach them to read, or the whole day's going to be hard. The entire day is going to be hard for these students, the whole day.
And then flip that. So you spend a year, which I've experienced, getting a severely dyslexic child in third grade. 1 year, he got on grade level. He's kindergarten reading level. His whole day was reading. That's all he had to do, was be with this tutor and practice reading and do, the drills, whatever.
Yeah.
And he got on level and he did great. So why not just spend the time and teach children how to read, and then build, if they can read, then they can do math, they can think different. I mean, I'm a reader now. I went through a reading program as an adult, became a reader, and I can read now, and I read every single night, and books become alive in my head, and it's a movie, and I see it, and I can think different, right? It's a development of the brain. So there should be non-negotiable, if you can't read, we need to teach you to read, not science, social studies, English.
So what do you hear from the students and the children that you work with?
Yeah, I don't hear a lot because I don't work. I'm at Drexel University, team building a doctoral program, and my position is outreach. It isn't, reads is course development, assessment, data acquisition. Mine's community outreach. So I don't work with children. I'm out there trying to listen closely to what states need, what communities need. But the students I have talked to, they don't want to talk about it. It's shameful. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
They changed the subject. You'll see, hopefully, on the hub, the Drexel hub, we did do a video interview with a young boy who has struggled learning to read. He still struggles, and he talks about the shame, the embarrassment, the confusion. I mean, I want to say, just ask yourself where you're not good at something.
Yes.
And then do it all day long and tell me how you feel.
Yeah. Yes. This is the experience that I always go in my mind to anytime I saw a child struggle. I did well in school. I did, but there came a point, so I never learned how to swim. Everyone, okay. I mean, my brother, avid swimmer. We went to swimming lessons together. He becomes an avid swimmer. He joins the swim team. Then he joins the diving team. And we went all around on the weekends to go for him for his swim tournaments. And I was incredibly smart. Never learned to swim. So they had me down in the kiddie pool. So even with my age, I'm down in the kiddie pool. I can't even learn to hold my breath underwater. So then I began to cry. And then they said, don't act like a baby, And
Right.
so I'm like, I'm trying so hard. And they said, you need to try harder. And as a child, I'll never forget that. And so I became Hyvie and splotchy. They walked me out to my car. This happens for 2 summers. They say to my mom in the station wagon with the wood grain down the side, I'll never forget standing there. And they called her by her last name, Mrs. So-and-so. Please do not ever bring Angela back. She cannot do what all the other children can do. She's upsetting everyone. She won't stop crying. Don't bring her back. Oh my gosh, I just wept in the car. Wept.
Yeah.
Literally just had a breakdown. My mom was like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Fast forward several years, and now I'm in high school. I'm a freshman. It's time for PE class, and we have a swim unit. And we have to swim laps and everything to pass this class. And so I'm a straight A student. I suddenly don't want to go to school. I get sick. I'm in the nurse's office. I have headaches. They take me. I'm having migraines for the first time. I'm avoiding swimming lessons. So when I see when as a teacher, I saw those students, it took me back to that and when I've now advocated for so many students in different districts, and parents have, I've gone on behalf of the parents to advocate for them. And I've said to them, think of the thing that you're the absolute worst at, or something that's impossible for you, and then tell you have to do it from 8 till 3 or 3:30.
Yes.
And think
Good.
about what's going to
You
happen
get it.
to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
your day.
Yeah.
Like if you told me right now I had to jump in a pool and swim laps, Diane, I'd have a breakdown
Every day.
right now in my 50s. Right now.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I can't do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think having a workshop of, all these people and starting out, having them stand up one at a time and asking them to sing.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And hold on to the feeling as they're singing. Just 5 minutes, sing for maybe 4 minutes. No, maybe just 3 minutes, and have everybody one at a time sing one at a time, and then hold on to that. That's what it felt all day long, like prepping. Oh, when are they going to ask me to sing or read? So I know you get it. You get it.
Yeah. So most of our listeners, I want to shift this now to teachers directly, because most of our listeners are educators, as you know. If you could sit down with every teacher in America just over a cup of coffee, what would you want them to know about those students sitting in their classrooms who have dyslexia? What's a message that you would want teachers to know?
More than anything, those teachers hold so much power to change a child's life. Forever.
Forever. Yes.
Forever. So the question is, how? How could they change that child's life forever? Well, if they don't know how to teach reading to a dyslexic child, because it's a little more intense, maybe they know how, but they don't have the time. They can still advocate for the child. They can still go to the leadership in the building and say, I know there are children that are really struggling. They need the program that's going to have the strongest impact in their lives forever. It's a forever skill. Yeah. So I say that because I've been to enough school visits to see that Tier 1 doesn't always match Tier 2, which doesn't always match Tier 3. And when I go to school visits, site visits, I'm with teachers and leaders and Reed and other people. And then there's me. I'm usually the only one that has my background of experience. So when I'm sitting in the room, people are looking at the teacher, they're looking at the curriculum, I'm looking through the eyes of the child that just experienced tier 1, 2, and 3 with different teachers, different instruction, different methodologies, different beliefs. And I'm going, the child's mind must be spinning. We're dyslexic. We have a language challenge. You've just brought 3 adults into our world in an area where we're struggling with 3. It's like French, Spanish, and
Yes.
German, and like time out. So I'm drilling Reed in saying, Reed, if this is what I said to him the other day. If we had a magic wand and could change, everybody's belief system and had them understand that science of reading is not a belief system, it's a science, it's not a program, it's a science, no different than medicine.
Yes.
We got the best textbook, the best curriculum, the best teacher training. And if we didn't change the tier 1, 2, and 3, we'd still have a big problem. Wouldn't we?
We would. Absolutely. Yes.
So we need to really look at all the areas that confuse this child's mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like you said, it's like throwing 3 different languages to them. Because, in my work, I spend a lot of things of like, we need things systematic, explicit systematic instruction. Because if it isn't that common systematic, then they're just going from one thing to one thing. We're taking the brain, and it's not the child, it's that brain. We're taking that brain and putting it in 3 different things. Imagine the confusion. So, as a principal, listeners, please listen, and leaders, this is an idea. I took our students that we often refer to as Reds, Tier 3, and this was an idea, I think from Jan Hasbrook. It was either Dr. Vicki Gibson or Dr. Jan Hasbrook, and said, follow that student. When they're not making progress, Angie, when they're stagnant, go everywhere that child goes. And I'm like, we have to all, and I'm passionate about this. I speak to Reed about it all the time. We have to all be speaking the same language everywhere we go, or we just make the struggle that much harder for these students.
Confusing. They're not going to get it.
No. And they're already behind. And now we often, unfortunately, as adult educators, we make their life even more difficult.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you've often talked about, I've heard you and I've read things where you've said the importance of preserving a child's dignity in this work.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. So what are some simple ways that teachers can do that every day? Because they're that front line. They're that front line in schools where they can do this.
Right. I would also add this message to parents too. I think it's okay to talk to the child about their strengths and their struggles. Mm-hmm. If somebody would have sat me down and talked to me, I mean, there was no talking about my dyslexia, my challenges, my successes. I mean, it was kind of strange. So I think identify some strengths, and school and life is more than just education. Look for those kids that are outliers and are lone, who aren't with their clique. I mean, it's very sad to live a life like that, right? And adults have a lot of power. I mean, I can name some of the teachers who, put their arm around me in high school and said, I know you're struggling with reading, but you're a smart girl. Let's be transparent. Why aren't we talking about this stuff more? Now, I don't want to get too passionate about it, because maybe this is the way high school teachers are now, or middle school teachers now. So you ask me a question, that would be my answer. Don't be afraid to talk about it. It's not a scarlet letter. It's not my fault. we're a team. Let's work on this
Yeah.
together. I'm not going to, I don't think the child needs to carry it into adulthood. It's right.
Right. Exactly. Well, this series, we're now going to shift to the word that we want to bring out right along with the word dyslexia, and that word is hope. So, our entire series is built around that word hope. So, after everything you've lived through, everything you've seen Kyle go through, and the work that you've done, and the work that you've done beside your husband, Reed, why are you still hopeful? Are you hopeful? Let me ask that one thing. Are you hopeful? I believe you
Oh,
are. So, yeah,
I
I
am
know
very,
that. So, why are you still so hopeful?
so I'm very hopeful because, and I'll go back 30, 40 years. When I'm with teachers who are advocates and understand what it takes to teach a child with dyslexia or a child who's struggling to read because they're behind, I watch it happen, and it happens, and the teacher's excited, the parent's excited, the student, the whole personality changes. So I've seen that. My hope was lifted when I heard people like Joe Torgeson, Louisa Moats, Sally Shaywitz, Marilyn Adams, Reed Lyon. It's oxygen. It's like, yes, they get it. And then you sit in an auditorium watching teachers watch them.
Yes.
They're giving the teachers hope, and the superintendents and the principals and the mayor and the governor. You sit there and you're bathing in, they showed up, this is working. So I kept creating events and people showed up. Then I went to the federal level and I was assigned to start teaching parents that there is science in education, science in systems, science in reading. And we need to look for the science, not just get federal funds and buy paint and coffee, but really become strong advocates for the science of. That's a big deal to be assigned that job. That brought me
Yes.
hope. So,
Yeah.
now today, what brings me hope is meeting people like you. I mean, you're a fierce warrior,
Thank you.
and I know you're not going to stop.
I'm not.
Uh,
I'm not.
meeting people like Lori Severino, who's been at this very long and keeps taking on so much. She's never going to stop. I mean, she is amazing. Reed, who's been
Yeah.
retired several times, he brings me hope because I see him writing these articles with Doug Carnine and Louisa and Lori. That brings me hope. And then we get feedback. The program at Drexel's going to be completely out of the box
It
program.
is. Yeah.
It's going to be different for all people, for paraprofessionals, for professional development, for developing a common language, for school boards. This is going to be a community affair. Why? Not only because the child deserves to be able to read, but the community deserves to be literate, prosper, hopeful, evolving. If you don't have a community, and the business community gets it,
They
the
do.
community colleges get it.
Yeah.
We need to be teaching reading. So the Hub and Drexel are about making communities, partnerships, and meeting people where they're at. The grandparents, the parents, the librarians. Like, I feel like we're going to build a parade of common language. And if someone has a complaint or criticism, I want to hear it so we can take their idea and build upon it. No sides. There's no more sides.
Right.
We're all in
The
it
side of the
together.
child.
That's the side of the child.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got the right people on the team. It's so exciting. We've got a group focused on parent training and parent involvement, public awareness, school board, politicians. We're covering all the bases because we have to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I cannot thank you enough for the work that you've dedicated your life to, and you and Reed together are just an incredible force. I feel so blessed to have gotten to know you, to know Lori, to be working with the group that's doing this work together, and of all like-minded people that have the same goal, to fix this. And I believe it's completely fixable, it's doable, it's possible. We can do it. If you had one just closing message as we close out, is there anything that you would want to say? Whether it be to students, to parents, to teachers, anybody? Just one final message?
Well, one final message would be that it's possible, that it is possible. Don't give up. It is possible. And for some reason, I always seem to go from the child to the parent and then to the business community. I believe that the business community needs to step up and find their voice and join the parade to say, as a business community, we need literate adults. I think that would change the state level perspective, and the voters, the voters' voice would help the state level change their standards, change how they're going to collect data, really look at literacy at the ground level.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So as I close us out here, I want to say again, thank you, Diane. Thank you for your honesty, your truthfulness, vulnerability, and thank you so much for just trusting us with your story, because your courage, your honesty, they're just gifts. And I've shared this with you before, and I'll say it again here publicly. You are such a blessing to so many of us. And I know that there are going to be so many people listening today who feel seen and heard because of what you've shared, and they've lived that, or they have a child living it, or maybe it's a teacher with a student living it, or a grandparent of the grandchild that's going through this. So as I listened to your story, I'm reminded again, we mentioned this last episode, but I'm just reminded again that every single struggling reader, listeners, they have a story. They have a story that we can't see. And before they were an assessment score, before we see an intervention plan, before we see a diagnosis, there's just a child. There's a child or a person trying desperately to make sense of something that comes so easily to everyone else, but it's a challenge for them. And my hope is that every educator listening today walks into their classroom after hearing this with just a little more understanding, a little more patience, and an even stronger and a stronger commitment to ensuring that we get this right, because it is possible, and we get it right, and that every child learns to read. So if you're a parent listening today, we hope you remember Diane's story, and we hope it reminds you to never give up. Keep asking questions, keep going, keep advocating, and again, keep believing in your child, because there is hope, and your child is capable of extraordinary things. So Diane, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being such a powerful voice for children and for families. Your life's work has given hope to countless people. And I am so grateful that you shared your journey with us today. So thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if this conversation encouraged you, we hope that you would share it with a friend, a colleague, a parent, someone that needs it. And our hope is that these stories in our series on dyslexia continues to just spread awareness. But more importantly, we hope it continues to spread hope that this is possible. So As always, thank you so much for joining us on Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. And until next time, keep leading with grit and displaying grace always. And this has been brought to you by Angela Hanlin and Associates. We will see you next time.
Grit and grace, that's how we grow. Step by step and child by child we know. There's power in the words we say. We lift the voices light the way. Grit and grace, it's a journey we all share. For every child,